Hi, welcome to Snowdrops Sunsets. My name's Terry. I am presenting today a very special formula. It is a design tool formula that has been developed in order to help us to design and potentially redesign life-affirming systems. Through my experiences in life, I am a designer in and of my essence. I love to create. I love to consciously create. And sometimes I would potentially see things but not quite be able to figure out how to find a solution. Personally, I love permaculture and I love some of the systems within that help us to design new structures. But I found a little bit of a gap, particularly when it came to things like maintenance as part of the OBREDIM system or evaluation even. And even in Looby's design web, which I've used a few times, I found during the times of pause or reflection or appreciation, I wasn't sure how to get to the real nitty-gritty of what can be changed through them parts of the process. So this formula I'm calling a life design formula. There are 9 parts. And obviously you can use it any way you want, but my recommendation would be to follow the formula. I will obviously clearly state the formula, and I will have the formula written in format on this blog post, but I particularly wanted to just explain it a little bit more, well, not in person because we're not in person, but face to face somewhat through a video. So let's start. Number 1 of the formula. Nothing is something without agreement. Something without agreement is nothing. Now, what this relates to, particularly for me, is sometimes within a system, particularly a social system, one person might observe something or have a problem with part of the system, and then not necessarily be able to find an agreement of that. And what I found that this tells me is if there's not an agreement that there's a problem within that system, then actually potentially it's that person isn't required as part of that system. That maybe has a bit of a deeper meaning, but actually before something can be anything, there needs to be an agreement, and without that agreement then nothing exists. Number 2. Agenda is everything. Everything has gender. Everything has an agenda, and gender is everything. This one's really important. It's kind of to do with the duality of all things. We live in a universe that has masculine and feminine dualities, and everything in this universe that we relate to must comply within those 2 frameworks of masculine and feminine, and there's masculine and feminine within everything. This is not about male, female, or anything like that. It's to do with the qualities and the very distinct qualities and the differences between masculine and feminine, and then also being aware of both the light and the dark aspects of those genders. It's a bit more of a complex construct to explain, and I have done other videos, and I will do more videos or blog posts about it. But it's very important at this point to be aware of gender, and that each gender has an agenda. And that can't really be changed. You can be, once you're aware of it, and we need awareness of both genders and the agenda of both genders, whether that be the positive aspects or the negative aspects, because it is deeply rooted in our nature and therefore the nature of everything. So what this one particularly would relate to is if you create an agenda, if you're creating an agenda, you need to understand what the distinct gender roles of that are, who might be best to follow that agenda within that particular role, and then to understand that each gender has an agenda that is intrinsic in the nature and that cannot be changed. And 3, to fix, be fluid to fix. Now this one kind of links to the previous one about gender. Obviously some things are fixed, but within a fixed structure there has to be fluidity. And again, some things are fluid, but within the fluidity there has to be certain fixed laws. It's just the way the universe rolls, and we need to be aware of that. So if you want to fix something, but if there's a problem in your system that you want, that we've agreed is a problem, there's agreement there, you have to be fluid. If you want to fix something, you're going to have to be fluid to find the solutions. Again, if you want to be fluid, if you want to create something fluid, you're going to have to create some sort of fixed position for the fluidity to flow through. Number 4. I should do this. I don't know. 4 is use old structures in a new form. Or in a new form, use old structures. This one's quite important, particularly for redesign. If you try and create something brand new, it doesn't work. It gets way too pure. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. So this is a very, very, it's a simple rule. Use the old structures you've got, but use them in a new way. Or if you want to create something new, if you want a new outcome, use the old structures. Don't try and do everything new at the same time, and don't try to stick to the old at the same time. You must have both. And that's very important if you want to be able to have a successful transition or a successful redesign or a successful change within any system. Number 5. Use existing patterns to change the details. To change the details, use existing patterns. So this is very, very similar to the previous part of the formula, the previous rule, but a little bit different. So the previous rule might have been related to physical structures or legal structures, whatever that might be. This is more to do with patterns of behaviour, repeating the cycles of life. So very similarly, it's very difficult to create a whole new pattern or create all new details and make it successful. So actually, if you want to use existing patterns, you change the tiny details of the pattern. Or other way around, if you want to change a detail, you need to stick to the patterns. Particularly this one, I'm thinking it'll work in any structure, but for social things really. If people are used to a particular predictable pattern of behaviour, it's very difficult to get them to change that pattern of behaviour. But if you just change a small detail of it incrementally, then slowly the pattern will change. Number 6. Balance in everything. Everything in balance. This one is very important. It's the awareness that within everything, within every system, there needs to be balance, and everything needs to be balanced. So I'm trying to relate that to something. So everything needs to be balanced overall, but within each element of a system and structure, that also needs to be balanced. We need to be aware of where the balance needs to be created to create it, and this is a conscious thing that has to be done. So balance is in everything, and everything is in balance. It's a conscious process in number 6. Number 7, school the scholars to educate the educators, and to educate the educators to school the scholars. This one's interesting because this is about learning, sharing knowledge, growing and developing. Again, it's maybe a little bit more of a complex one that I might have to explain in a bit more detail. But if we want successful educators, if we want to pass on successful knowledge that's always learning and growing, because things are always developing and changing within our world, our universe, we need to school the scholars, the students, in a way that would educate the educators, so that the educators can then school the next level of scholars. It's a learning cycle, not to be assumed that you know everything, and to understand that somebody new with a new perspective might actually be able to teach you more than you know, and that is an ongoing, continual cycle. Number 8, to look forward, go back, to look forward. This one is that finding that balance between nostalgia and future aspiration. If you want to look forward to the future, you need to look back. You need to look back to see what worked. And if you're struggling to go forward, then look back. I don't like using labels such as good and bad, but if you want to look forward to the future, if you want to look forward to that, go back and see what worked well or what didn't work well. And in order to go forward, you need to look back. It's that cycle of, again, appreciating that we can learn from the past, and we need to bring the lessons from the past into the future. And yeah, if we want to create a good future, we're going to have to look back at what happened in the past. Number 9. Personal responsibility is collective compassion. Collective compassion is personal responsibility. This one is obviously a bit more personal, but it needs to be considered within a system. To be personally responsible for yourself is compassionate to the collective. You need to take care of yourself for the collective as a whole to be healthy and well. And that can't be enforced on someone, so to be collectively compassionate is a personal responsibility. It's up to the individual to decide how, where and when they are compassionate to the collective. Again, this might be one that needs unpacked a little bit, but I hope you can understand that concept. Personal responsibility is collective compassion, and collective compassion is personal responsibility. Yeah, that's it. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to the formula at least. I'm happy to put it out there into the collective commons, although this is a design created by Snowdrops Sunsets. Credit where credit is due, please. If you do end up using this formula and it's helpful, please credit Snowdrops Sunsets. And I hope that we can experiment with the formula now, use it in different ways to see how effective it is to create new systems, to redesign old systems. Also, the idea of the formula is it's not just for fixed structural systems. It could literally be used for anything, I think, from redesigning a business structure or a building, how it operates, to social situations, relationships, or even within ourselves, looking at ourselves and our life design. So I'm really excited to put it out there. I hope you enjoy and appreciated it, and I would love to see if it has brought benefit to you, to your designs, and for our future development as humans.